Okay, so the webinar has started. I can see participants joining, which is great. Okay, I can see participants are continuing to join. We'll give it another minute. And then we will start to do introductions. I see Colin has joined us. I believe I can allow you to talk, Colin, if you'd like.
Hello.
Hi, Colin.
Can talk. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Colin.
Hey, Colin.
Forward to you all saying nice things specifically about me. No. No, I'll be here watching and listening, so looking forward to it.
Okay. All right, well, I think we will get started and people might continue to join. Welcome to everybody already here. This is alumni discussion session for the Postgraduate Certificate Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which has been designed by Tangent, especially for early career researchers. And we have applications open at the moment for our next iteration of the program, which starts in January 23. So we're delighted, and thank you very much for your time, to hear from some of our alumni from last year's cohort on the program, who have been willing to give up their lunchtime to come and chat about how they found the program. So if you do have any questions as we move along the webinar, just pop them in the Q&A box. And we'll respond as we go. And then at the end of this session, I have a couple of slides to share with you about the application process. So if you've got any questions on that front, I'm more than happy to answer them at the end. So I am Maeve. I'm the program manager for the PG Cert. Who would like to introduce themselves first?
I could do that. Great. So hi, everybody. I am Brienne Pitt. I'm a current PhD student at Trinity College Dublin in the School of Computer Science and Statistics. I'm also a former teacher and broadcast journalist. So my research looks into how interactive technologies can help students understand really complex data sets.
Great. Thanks, Brienne. Anybody else?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Hi, everyone. My name's Connor. I'm a third-year PhD student in the School of Medicine based in St. James's. And my research looks at how homelessness and low socioeconomic status affect health. So specifically, we're interested in how stress is a biological mechanism that embeds social inequalities in health. And for that PhD, I've been funded by IRC as part of an enterprise program. So I was quite interested in this program, helped me translate, I guess, our research into meaningful actions that will actually help the patient population that we work with.
Ah, thanks, Connie. Connie?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Maeve, for giving me this opportunity. I am Unikrishnan. I'm a research project manager in the School of Engineering in Trinity College. And my research interest is in building material circular economy. So we have a startup that's called Dr. Concrete. It's currently incubated with Trinity Entrepreneurial Society. So I do come to Tangent every week. My other interests are in sustainable energy. I also supervise students on watershed management in Africa. So loads of climate related stuff. So it's great to be here.
Thanks, Annie. Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire and I'm a research assistant at Ulysses Neuroscience and I work here in the lab. My current project is looking at synaptic plasticity in Parkinson's disease, but we also work on different projects such as gene therapy ones and also depression. And I'm also in tangent with Uni in the test incubator program as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And it's great to have such a diverse range of research topics as well. That is one of the good things about the program, I think, is that it gives you an opportunity to kind of do a bit of teamwork and get to know people researching in different areas to your own. And we know that interdisciplinarity is one of those things that the funding stream always follows, always useful to upskill in that area. So I think, Connor, you touched on this already. So can I start with you by asking, what were your unique reasons for undertaking the PG cert? Because it is a, 30 credits program. It's a bit of a decision to make.
Sure, yeah. I mentioned my PhD is an enterprise PhD. So it's actually in partnership with the homeless charity DePaul. And I guess coming into the PhD, most of my experience have been in bench science, a background in genetics. And I really wanted to find ways to take what we'd learned in the lab and in our research to translate that into meaningful projects that actually help the patient population, like I said. So we've started to do some of that in our group. One project that we've worked on is a homeless peer support service. So it's kind of like a social enterprise, I guess. Where we train other homeless people to advocate on behalf of their peers when they come to the hospital for health appointments and stuff like that, recognizing the special challenges and cultural challenges that can exist sometimes in marginalized populations and engage at the health service. So it's that sort of stuff, I guess, social enterprise that I was most interested in when I started. But I was very surprised actually when I began that my range of interests expanded quite quickly as I started to meet other people and chat to them. So it was initially the social enterprise, but much broader now.
Great. Anybody else?
I'll go. So just very, very briefly, I was at a bit of a standstill with my academic career. I wasn't really sure what my plan was when I finished my PhD. So, everybody's asking me, are you going to go into academia? Are you going to go into industry? And I just wasn't sure. So I really wanted to kind of look at all of my options. And that's when I saw this course being offered online. And I thought, what a good idea this would be, because this will even expand my horizons a bit more. And I knew nothing about entrepreneurship or design thinking. And I felt like taking this course would just expand those options once I completed my coursework. So that's why I took it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that is a nice thing about the program, is that it's very much a good grounding, and we do have, particularly in module 2, which is innovation pathways for researchers, we have put a bit of work into thinking about what are all the different possible routes that you might take. I think one of the difficulties post PhD can be that there is such a diversity of routes that you can follow. And the earlier you start thinking about that, the more useful it is. So on the program, we have everybody from, those at a later career stage that maybe want to make a bit of change, and those even who are pre-PhD. It's worth kind of thinking about what route your research direction wants to take as soon as possible. And that might be entrepreneurship, or it might be applying entrepreneurial characteristics in different ways. But Ani, what about you? What about your reasons for undertaking this course? Because you're quite familiar with Tangent and their offerings.
I know. So I had subscribed to the newsletter, and I got this right when I was graduating from the previous course. I saw this, and I was like, oh, Innovation Entrepreneurship research pathway. So that research pathway phrase is what actually, attracted me. And it was like, are they going to help us write research proposals? Is that what they're going to do? And then that would be interesting, So that was where I came from. But what happened was, it was not writing research proposals. It was what we learned especially was about how to understand the institution that's offering the opportunity, learn more about them, and then present your proposal in a way that it's like a know your customer kind of approach, that we know. So so that's what actually attracted me to it. And there's also a factor of inhibition. Like though the climate entrepreneurship was completely online, so we were not like, I wanted, like, there was a roadblock. I wasn't confident to come to this entrepreneurship stuff and do a startup, go to hackathons. I didn't just have that confidence, and I wanted that maybe deeper in my mind, and that's what I feel I accomplished through the course as well.
That's really interesting. I mean, we have the timetable for the next run will again be kind of during the week. It will be majority online. So if a module is, say, 5 weeks, you would start it with a more intensive in-person Saturday session for the day. And then during the week, you'd have Tuesdays and Thursdays online class, 6 to 8 p.m. You guys had 6 to 9 p.m. You'd be pleased to hear that these incoming students, it's been we've put in longer in-person sessions at the start and at the end of the module, and then online during a week during a module. So for 4 or 5 weeks, they would have class twice a week for 2 hours. A little bit of an easier approach. And then, yeah, as I said, you'd finish the module with another in-person session. So we're trying to get the best of both worlds, I think, really, with that kind of flexibility to join. It is a blended program, and that online element, I think, appeals to people, especially if you need to kind of join class from the lab or something. Speaking of which, Claire, that was actually accidental. But speaking of which, what were your reasons for joining the program?
UCD, I took some of their modules from the Innovation Academy, and I really loved them, and they were my favorite modules at UCD, and they did like creative thinking and design thinking, and they were just so much fun. So I thought this was something similar, and it was just as fun. And yeah, I thought the course was really great and fun, and also it really stuck out to me because, again, it was for researchers, and I really liked how that it was tailored specifically for researchers, because that's something that I haven't seen before. And then also because I entered previous little startup competitions in UCD, and I thought this would be like similar and help me learn a lot more.
Cool. So my next question then is, was there anything sort of surprising, or what was, maybe the most surprising or the most impactful aspect of the course? Anybody want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I think from the get-go, like the first module, he's probably looking for it now with the prize I'm going to give you, Colin.
I should explain for the audience. So Colin is on the call, and Colin is our lecturer and academic lead for Module 1, Creative Thinking, and Module 4, Leadership. Go on,
yes. So I think from the first session, it was just getting to grips with the process of actually bringing an idea into the real world, like from ideation to translation right through to I guess delivery. So like that practical component that was embedded in the first module, it kind of taught me something. I always had this preconception that like entrepreneurs are kind of born and not made. But through those classes, I learned that actually there are structures that you can use, and like actually when you're working with other people, you can come up with amazing ideas, and sometimes silly ones, but amazing all the same in their complexity. And yeah, I think that was the first surprise, but there are plenty more throughout. And it was always, I think, that thing of like seeing that actually there are frameworks you can follow, and that entrepreneurs aren't special people, that they're like researchers are actually entrepreneurs almost by definition, and a lot of the skills that we already have translate very well to innovation. So I think that was the big surprise.
Yeah, I'd have to actually agree with you. Well, not actually agree with you, Connor. I am agreeing with you, Connor, because I found the first module surprising to me, because when I started the course, I thought to myself, creativity, I've got that. I'm a creative person. This is going to be a breeze. I find this module really easy. And it's actually the module I struggled with a bit the most. When for example, I was so wrong with my initial thought about being that creativity is just something you either have or you don't, because there's so many, as you said, Connor, so many structures to creativity. And I found that the most beneficial to myself because it was very human-centered, structured. And that's what helped me, because I hadn't really thought of innovation as having to be something like human-centered. And it shocked me also how easy it is to come up with great ideas. I think every single one of the people in our cohort came up with awesome ideas in this module. And the thing that surprised me was that ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody can come up with a great idea. The difficult part about, creativity and entrepreneurship and everything is that you have to have the follow through with the idea. And you have to have the team. So your team has to be able to make that idea look like it's a reality. And, some companies even start up without having an idea. And they build that idea over the process of, learning about different audiences and problems that exist out there. So for me, that was the most surprising when I took this course.
Well, if I can join in, I really liked, Colin always says this, done is better than perfect. That has stayed with me. So I remember it all the time. Like, I just have to do stuff. I don't have to make it perfect. So our startup is actually a product of that. It's done better than perfect, because I didn't have anybody going into the first event and I had no partner. We needed 2 people to at least present. But I just went. I thought I would join somebody else's team, but I was able to convince another person to join me. And today we together have a venture. So I think it's important to not even like done, like try. Try is better than perfect. So that's kind of something that I took from it. Secondly, what I found really challenging was, you remember, like there's that professional development plan, like where do you see yourself in 5 years, like charting it down. That was so it is so difficult for me. Like I was sweating, like, to do that. It was a struggle. And so, yeah, those were some really surprising elements there.
Okay.
I think similar to Connor about creative thinking, I feel the same, that I didn't realize how many frameworks there were to help encourage creative thinking. And Colin went over the convergent and divergent thinking and how to think of so many different ideas. And even there's example of to think of bad ideas and how that can encourage creativity, like a chocolate teapot or something, and then trying to like, I just found that all really interesting. There's so many different ways to think in the modules as well.
I'd agree with you there, Claire. I think, sometimes we don't even realize the assumptions that we're making. The chocolate teapot is a great example, because, that's only a problem if you assume that tea has to be hot, so it's definitely useful. And I think where it can come in useful in unexpected ways is where possibly you come across challenges in your work or your research, and now whether it's kind of the frameworks to think about things creatively, or whether it's the people skills, the entrepreneurial characteristics to kind of just go after the opportunity, like Ani has said. And we have one question in the box, so I think might refer to that. So it's from Manish, and he says, how do you think this course will be helpful for a person who's interested only in academia with a research focus, especially someone coming from a pure mathematical background? Does anybody have any thoughts on that one?
I mean, I would definitely say it would be helpful because of a lot of the work that we did. We learned how to do pitches, create pitches, and you can be pitching as an academic. You could be pitching to some kind of research grant or some scholarship, or you could be pitching in order to try to get money for whatever your project is. And a huge part of this course is developing really effective pitches. And I think I don't know if anybody remembers, but we had a couple pitches that we had to create. It wasn't just one, it was like 3 or 4 or something like that. And therefore, by the end of this, I felt like I got the pitch down. I've got this nailed. I know how to do it. So, whether you're an academic or you're in industry, learning how to create a pitch is really, really important. So I would say that, yes, that's one way in which this course can help you, even if you're just an academic and not going into industry or entrepreneurship.
And I just want to add to that, in an academic context, how I use the course. So there was Know Your Institution and why you would be a good fit for the institution, either in opportunities recognition module, if I remember correctly. And I use that framework and those slides that I made as a presentation slides for my interview as an assistant lecturer in Atlantic TU. And I actually got that position as well. So I was able to use that. And So yes, you can use it in an academic context, but talking a bit about mathematics, like you have a purely mathematical solution, but you will meet people like, say, Connor here, or Brian here, who's working on, say, misinformation, Connor who's working on genetics. You can do applied mathematics on their problems. So you have the great networking opportunity. So we actually encourage pure mathematicians to come. They have loads to offer to others here, and it will be a great opportunity.
Yeah, I guess just to add to that, actually, one of the best parts of the course was the interdisciplinarity of it all. So, like, there were people from all sorts of backgrounds there, and like we all do, I'd say, to some extent, some type of interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary research. But like, it can go so much deeper than that, and I think you really learn how to work with other people who have a different way of coming at problems, approaching problems, and thinking about different things. So it's a real practical education, I think, in how to do successful interdisciplinary research. And like Brianne and Uni have both said, there's a whole host of skills that you get in the course that I think are broadly applicable, even within academia, how to present ideas, how to, I guess, appeal to maybe donors or funders and things like that, and how to solve problems, because there's a lot of problems in old institutions, academic institutions and places like it. So I think, yeah, it gives you a fresh perspective on how to address those.
Yeah.
And there's also one of the classes, they talked a lot about networking, which I find really helpful. So a lot of the classes do apply to, they make the classes apply to your everyday work life, which is really good as well.
Absolutely, Claire. I think even if it's a sort of a what you might call a straightforward academic route that you're planning to take down, I think in today's world, this sort of well, virtuous or vicious cycle, whatever way you want to put it, where you know, a lot of funding might be based not only on research results, but on outputs and citation indexes, and on additional activities such as public engagement with research. And so a lot of the skills on the program you might find are really useful for that, for understanding which elements of your research you might share with others, and how to kind of frame that explanation to different audiences. And then, of course, the more you put yourself out there, you network, and you get familiar with those kind of external facing events, the more that people see your online content, they interact with it, your citation index goes up, you get more opportunities, because when you go for opportunities or interviews, they see that you already have a profile and a lot of activity. So it becomes a little bit of a cycle, I think. And I have to say, I've always heard that, so I did a PhD in art history, but I've always heard that the further you get into mathematics, the more it turns into an art form. But I don't really know if that's true or not. That might not be a comparison that you enjoy. But we have another question in the box. Do you need to go into the course with a specific entrepreneurial idea or a concrete idea of how you'll apply learnings, or can you go in hoping to expand your skill set and horizons? So I think we've kind of answered that, but that feeds into another question that I had, which is sort of around like, what do you think the application of your learning from the program is in your kind of your day-to-day role? I mean, you mentioned that you'd directly applied some assignment content to go for an opportunity. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes. So to that question, I also want to reiterate that absolutely not. You don't have to come up with an idea to the course. And for example, we work with multiple ideas during the course. And I want to say one of them in the first module was we worked on making disability services integrated with the my.tcd portal as part of our first assignment. That's not what I'm doing now with Dr. Concrete. So it's not much about the idea, but it's about what frameworks do you use to develop that idea, and how do you work as a team? So you keep on developing those skills. And coming back to Maeve's question on assignments, as I mentioned before, I was able to directly use some of the assignments because I was doing an interview at that time and the assignment came at that time. So they resonated, and it was like, Well, I'm going to do that, and that also may actually translates to good time management as well. So that would be a challenge that, you all would have, say, you want to apply for an IRC funding, use your peer assignments to do that, to target IRC. And in my case, I was targeting ATU. So I think there are multiple ways where you can, kind of, what's the word, repurpose the assignment to suit what you're actually doing at that time.
Thank you, Annie. I have one more question in the chat box, which I think might feed into that, which is outside the modules, what are the other requirements, homework assignments, and how much time a week do these other assignments require? Now, I wonder if I should close my ears for how much time you actually spent on assignments, but everybody, I don't think I'm spoiling the news by saying that everybody did very well. But we have designed the course and the assignments to ensure that researchers at any career stage can join, they can develop together, and that hopefully all of the assignments are very much able to be tailored to you, your context, and your goals, so that they are useful for you, as Uni said. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's a level 9 qualification. It's 30 European credits, so there are assignments to be completed, and there is an attendance expectation of 80% or more. So we do have some rules and regulations like any accredited program, but we'd hope that all the time that you put in is useful to you. And I think sometimes, on any kind of research pathway, we can be so focused on the next opportunity or the next goal that we actually don't have much time in our diaries sometimes to take a step back and think about, this treadmill that I'm on, is it quite right for me? Or are there other opportunities? And even if those other pathways aren't, becoming an entrepreneur or becoming an academic entrepreneur or being more entrepreneurial within your organization or whatever it might be, even if you don't end up following a different route to the one you were on, I think you can be more confident and happier that is the choice that is an informed decision. So yes, still lots of work to do, but hopefully it's helpful, would be my answer to that question.
Yeah. And I there's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. I was doing a lot of work. I mean, that's the expectation that when you take a course that is 30 credits. But the difference between this work and some of my work from other courses is that this work was actually applicable to what I was doing during that moment. So, kind of going with what Uni was saying, like, for example, during my coursework, I was required to take during my PhD, I'm required to take a work placement. I have to do a work placement. And I kind of put the feelers out there for a while, and I was looking for the perfect opportunity for me. And one of the emails I had sent out was actually to the World Economic Forum, and I didn't expect anything from it. But the next thing I know, I got an email back from them saying, hey, we'd love to have a meeting with you. Let's talk. So I'm like, oh gosh, this is a lot of planning, yada, yada, yada. But I was really happy that during this time period, especially we were taking a class called Opportunity Generation and Recognition. And I was scheduled to have a meeting with the World Economic Forum directly during this time. And one of the assignments in this module was to choose a company or an organization or a research unit that was relevant to our individual research goals, and to write some kind of analysis of the business from the perspective of researching an opportunity that was relevant to us. So therefore, I spent a ton of time researching the World Economic Forum, looking at everything that they had to offer, specific things that were relevant to me. And then the best part about this module was that it kind of asked us to make a pitch, in the sense that, like, after writing up this whole business kind of research plan, right? Everything about this business, you had to create a pitch based on what you researched with that assignment. And therefore my pitch kind of focused on, this is what you do great, but this is what I can add. This would be my value added to your company. This is what I could do to help it. And I think they were so shocked when I had the meeting with them that they didn't know what to do with me. They're like, oh, this is really interesting. And at the end of the conversation, I'm like, well, I have to do a work placement with my PhD. And they looked at me and they go, when do you want to start? And at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, this worked. I was so shocked. And there were no internships available at the time. So they actually created one for me. And I think that that's just, as we were saying, yes, there's a lot of work, but the work can be embedded in the things that you have to do anyways. So it's work that's beneficial to you, and it's not necessarily extra work on the side, the busy work that people always complain about with certain courses and things like that. So that's really how it benefited me. And I think that, as Uni said, he had a similar experience when he had to have an interview or something like that. And he used the coursework we were doing during that interview process, which ended up benefiting him as well. So, the work is a lot, but again, it's not busy work. It's important work. And it's stuff that really helps you in your career path.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brianne. Anyone else want to jump in, or? I see we have a few more questions. Oh, go ahead, Claire.
Oh, sorry. I think also if you're worried about like the time commitment of some of the assignments, sometimes we were given time during the classes, like at the end, if there's extra time, we were given time to work on them and stuff. Or sometimes we would fire ideas about what we were thinking of doing our assignment on and stuff. And other classmates would help as well with that. So that also is really helpful.
And I must also say, if an assignment is put forward and you don't think that it's really aligning with what you're doing, I think there was always an opportunity for you to discuss with the academic lead as to how to modulate the assignment to suit you. So those kind of conversations happened. I can vouch for that. And that's where my ATU thing came, because Geraldine was able to allow ATU, because research centers, etc., were being targeted, but I was doing to an academic organization. So I was able to modulate like that. So the admin support is really great with respect to if you fall sick or something like that, those kind of stuff. There is a bit of innovation that Tangent is doing with academic administration as well, which I always say, and that's what makes them different from other other courses across campus. That's what I think.
All right, thanks. I have to live up to that now. Don't be writing us checks here to cash. We have a question in the box here that says from I'm gonna say Ola Yinka Aramu, and she says, I'm working on what I call a brilliant solution to one of the major healthcare problems, which is readmissions of patients. But I feel I'm not confident enough to explain or have others buy into it, which might be technical know-how. How can this course help? Connor, can I ask you about that one maybe?
Yeah, sure. So actually, this is something that I felt on the course as well. And I think an experience in that first module in creative thinking, one of the projects was to take one of the sustainable development goals and to come up with an innovative solution to that particular problem or challenge. So we ended up settling on, I think, water. And I knew nothing at the time about water or water systems or the world's water problems. But it's amazing that when you have a team of people with diverse kind of skills and just general research capabilities, you can actually come up with pretty detailed ideas and solutions. The other thing that I'd say is a real strength of the course is, I guess, the constant encouragement to network and to talk to people outside your own field. So surprised by some of the guest speakers actually who have gone out and started businesses in areas where they're not experts, how they constantly would go to other people for advice and bring in, I guess, external consultation and to use their network to solve these types of problems. And I think I've been amazed in doing it myself, how helpful people are when you go to them with a genuine enthusiasm to tackle a problem that usually you'll get help, if not you'll get at least strong advice. So I don't think that should ever deter you, really. There are always people that would be willing to help, that will have that type of expertise, and there's always something valuable that you can bring to the table as well. So I think that's what I'd say on that one.
Thanks, Connor. Any thoughts from anybody else?
Just to kind of piggyback off of what Connor was saying, during the experience, I met somebody, actually, another person that was she was writing a paper and she didn't have a specific understanding of a certain topic, which I really did. And the next thing you know, she's like, well, Brianne, do you want to write this paper with me? So I was like, yeah, sure. And now we've submitted this paper and it's gotten accepted to a conference. We're going to be doing this together. And it's all started because one of us had a skill that the other didn't. and we combined forces. So, you'd be surprised. You might not have you might have a lack of technical know-how in something, but somebody else has that. So this is a really great networking opportunity. And gosh, I have to say, like, every single person in this class was wonderful. And, I'm friends with all of you. It was such a friendly, warm environment that I never was scared to ask for help, or I was never afraid to be like, throw something out there like, hey, you know this, so why don't you join me and help me in this? It was just very, very open and friendly environment. So, if there's certain things that you lack, there's other people out there that have that, and this is a great place to find them. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a question in from Javier Gutierrez Gonzalez, who asks, how valuable is this course in your opinion for people that are still looking to apply for a job in industry? I'm just thinking immediately, we did have a guest talk during the program from Professor Luke O'Neill, and that is, I think, that question of researching in academia or industry is one that's been around for a very long time. He was talking about his early choices and the kind of the dilemma that he had, where some of his colleagues were getting poached by industry, and his kind of decision-making pathway. So I suppose that this is one that all researchers face at some point. Oni, did you want to jump in?
Yeah. So I think there's also, I know we are talking about entrepreneurship, but there's also the concept of intrapreneurship. So when an industrial person is evaluating your CV and they see this innovation and entrepreneurship, even within an organization, you can bring in innovation. And when you have that particular credentials, say, if I'm thinking from a recruiter point of view, I would be interested in that. Like, that person knows the innovation framework and they have solved problems in the past. That would, that's some kind of capacity building CPD already done by that person. So I think it would be really helpful to have this even on an industrial CV. I think it's really, really relevant. And the problems that we solve are really, scaled up at an industrial level. And these ideas could be used by industries and the networks. And again, coming back, how being on the course helped me is, say, for example, Geraldine and Colin, how they helped me reach out to my industrial or disciplinary stakeholders in industry to help our startup. So we have actually Liz Gilligan, who has attracted millions of euros in funding in sustainable concrete. And Colin was able to get a meeting with her, and she has agreed to be our mentor for Dr. Concrete. So, I mean, that's amazing. So that's to what level that you could go. You could talk with CEOs, and because I think the academic leads are also practitioners in this area. They do their own startups or their own professional coaching, and so all that is really opening doors even in an industrial context.
Great.
Just to add to that as well, I kind of came into this not knowing what I wanted to do post PhD. So two of the modules that I thought were brilliant to kind of address that question were the one on opportunity generation recognition, and then another on leadership and personal development. So that those two modules that Geraldine led, they're very tailored to your own individual needs. And I think within hard science anyway, in the areas that I'm familiar with, there's kind of industry sort of a black box. The question's always academia or industry, and you don't really know what lies inside that black box. So I think, we're definitely encouraged to open the lid a little bit and explore, and in our own personal professional development plans, and also those, I think, Brianne, you mentioned it earlier, the project where we got to analyze another company for some opportunity that might be relevant to ourselves. That was really helpful for me, and I got to look at a biotech company that I was particularly interested in and just learn more about what they do. So there aren't just those research jobs that you can go into, research postdoc or research scientist role. There's plenty of others that are like really suited to people coming out of PhDs or research roles in universities. So I think those modules will help you find far more opportunities than you're probably aware of at the minute if your situation now is anything like mine was at the start of the course.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, think about all of the different professionals that came into our classes and spoke to us. I mean, we were introduced to people really high up in lots of different companies. Gosh, it must have been like 4 or 5 per module. So it's a great networking opportunity for you if you want to go into industry, because we were talking to the industry professionals that literally created startups and that have succeeded. So I think that that's a really, really great, a great way to network. So if you want to go into industry, this is a good opportunity for that as well.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I'm not seeing any more questions, I think, so I'll go back to my original list, which was about kind of, you know, how our time can be subject to a lot of different demands, you know, and we've said before, although it was useful work, it was still work. So I suppose, what advice would you give to somebody who isn't sure if this course is for them, or is worried about fitting it in?
Guess asking questions here is a start, but also probably reaching out to yourself, Maeve, and to Colin and to some of the other academic people within the course. I think it's, I found it to be a really supportive experience all the way through.
Yeah.
And even when there were different demands on my time, there's always understanding there. That's not an experience I've had really with any other academic course that I've taken, but here there really was I think a focus on making the course fit demands of our own time, and kind of was very tailored and understanding in that way. So I think, yeah, just being open about where you're at, and you'll get support, or at least advice.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I'm always happy to chat to people about how it might work for them. Claire, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think also if you're worried if the course is for you, I suppose a lot of it, I thought that because it was online lectures, you kind of think if you're in research, you've been like during university, a lot of the lectures they just talk to you and explain everything. But these courses were very different. It's very dynamic, and there's lots of interaction as well. So it's very different from like your typical like science lecture, and it's a lot more fun.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point to make. Is we would, of course, have possibly some more of the experiential, hands-on, interactive learning in the in-person sessions, and a bit more of the kind of theory and the lectures online, just because that's the natural split. But you would always, even where you have online lectures, we always try to be dynamic or be interactive, and keep everybody awake, keep everybody engaged, because, you know, I mean, where the subject topic is innovation, we're always willing to try new things in terms of delivering it, even if it is via Blackboard, which, as we all know, can sometimes stifle creativity a little bit, but there's never really a barrier to success.
True, and I also want to say, online presents its own opportunities as well. Like, I did the course from Iceland, I did the course from Milan, I did the course where I had the interview was talking about. The interview would be at some point, and then the course would follow that. So it's possible. It's really possible. So I would have been, I must confess, I would have been walking to a restaurant in Milan, but at the same time listening to the course and actively participating in it. So, you know, my secrets are revealed, but it's possible. But I also suggest that we do some kind of housekeeping, have a folder for this program, have a folder for the particular module, or download the assignment templates and put that in the folder, so that when you are really, you know, you have that deadline, you're facing that, you have everything to go to, even though you're working whenever you get time. But, you know, those kind of little housekeeping measures would really, really help to download all the materials at the beginning of the module, put them inside a folder, and you know where to go. And those are some, you know, normal tips that we could use here as well.
Claire,
I'm just actively participating. Sorry, you go on, Brianne.
No, it's fine. Claire, weren't you actually at one point on some kind of pilgrimage or something?
Yeah. I was doing doing the Camino, and then after that, I did some of my classes, and yeah, it was great.
Okay, so this is the bit where I jump in and say, okay, so we do have an attendance requirement for the online classes. You can beam in from wherever you might be. That's grand. But yeah, we would expect you there in person for the in-person classes. But if that's a concern, we can share the timetable in advance. But yeah. Research takes us lots of interesting places. As long as you continue to actively participate as well as listening, then absolutely be eating Italian food in Milan. Just don't tell everybody at the time.
Well, that's one of the things that I liked about this program too, though. You know, sometimes you can kind of beam into a class and just listen to it, and you're not participating, you're just there. But this wasn't like that at all. One of the things that the instructors did that I thought was really good was they would constantly check in with us. And I liked that because it kept me on my feet too. Because sometimes, you know, we had at the time it was 3-hour classes. So sometimes you can kind of tune yourself out, but there wasn't any of that because there was constant check-in. So they were very mindful of this, which I thought was, you know, props to them. And therefore, you know, it's active learning in the end instead of passive, which I thought was really, which is what made this class so beneficial.
Grant. So I'm conscious we're coming up to quarter 2, and I still have 1 or 2 slides to explain about how to apply, which I'm sure everybody on the session is completely convinced by now. But does anybody have any final comments or thoughts to add before I move on to my my slides?
I do see somebody has a question about a reference letter.
Manish, yep. So you need 2 academic reference letters, and if you're a current Trinity PhD student, then we do ask that one of those letters comes from your doctoral supervisor or equivalent, because we just need their not only approval, but their commitment to supporting you with taking on a 30 credits program during the course of your PhD. So we should explain you can't double count credits at Trinity. So if you take credits towards the Postgraduate Certificate award, then all of the 30 credits that you undertake need to go to that award, and they can't be used for your structured PhD. Coming to join a module towards the structured PhD is a different process. So we do need a commitment from your supervisor, and then all applications from PhD students are also subject to approval by the Dean of Graduate Studies, Professor Martine Smith. But hopefully that answers that question. So that was the long answer, but the short answer is 2, please. And Colin has said, don't forget our field trip for Module 1. What field trip did we have in Module 1? Was that the Techstars? No,
I think so. Yeah, it should be the Techstars. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see if the stars align again. But I think possibly one of the benefits from getting involved in the program is that, you know, where we see any opportunities to, you know, take a class on networking out into a pitch event where real entrepreneurs are pitching for funding, or where we see, you know, an opportunity, a funding opportunity or a networking opportunity or something that we think that you'd be interested in, we're always trying to share that information with participants on the class, on the course rather. Okay. Right, well, if anybody has any final comments, please go ahead while I do the very slow process of finding my slides and how to share them. No.
I know you got something, Uni.
I thought you were going to say something.
It's one of the 2 of us.
We love to talk, don't we?
I know it's bad.
Yeah, so we didn't tell anything about the gamification session that we had at the end, right? It was like, so they were
the one that you won.
Okay, I was hoping that you would say that, is it? No, not really, but I just want to say that was cool in the sense, like, I never pictured myself as a CFO, like, you know, asking people for money. You know, it's not something that I would really like, but I was surprised. Like, I didn't know that it was I could do that. So that
raised
was
something like $300,000 or euros, excuse me, didn't you? 300,000 euros for
No,
our
no,
cause.
the point is, so it was a really good simulation, I would say, of some kind of real life experience where by chance, like you have to select some lots, and I only got like 200,000 from the lots, where you could have got millions on the lots itself. But then just having 200,000, we were able to get say 500 or 300,000 from the investors. So those kind of things happen in real life for people. So it's good to be in those shoes and experience it. Kind of inspires you to do better. And people where they're like posing as venture capitalists, technocrats, etc., ready to invest and ask the difficult questions. I think it was a really good experience. So which we as educators also could try in our own context as well, from an educational point of view as well. I think these kind of role plays are really strong that way.
Okay, thank you guys. I'm having slight technical difficulties here. It doesn't seem to like me. But I'll start chatting, and if you have any questions, let me know. So absolutely, we will run that session again. That was a gamified sort of program finale. I see one question there about writing and structuring the letter of interest. So the letter of interest is about 500 words, is it, I think. Does anybody want to share how they approached it?
Oh gosh, that's really going back.
Well, no matter. It was I remember I read all of them, and so I think it was more about people's kind of, it doesn't need to be too formal. I think it was more about people's interest and their motivation for undertaking the program, and sort of their research goals, and I suppose what their goals would be joining the program. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I would just kind of maybe give an explanation of who you are, what you do, and why you want to join the program.
And the skills that you want to develop. So that's something that they could highlight. Like, maybe I want to develop communication skills to a diverse audience. Something like that could be useful for researchers, because can you explain your research to a primary school student in O'Connell Primary in Drumcombe? So if you get that opportunity, will you be able to do that? So those kind of things. So something specific to you that you would like to improve, I think could go in the application.
Well put, Annie. So here are my slides. I'll go quite quickly. I think we've answered a few questions during the course of this chat. But just a reminder that we have been talking about the PG Cert Innovation Entrepreneurship, which has been tailored for researchers, and pretty much, research staff and students in all disciplines. And so you've heard our wonderful alumni talking about the different modules. The module 1 starts with you in teams, and as Ani, I think, said, you have a challenge where you pick a UN Sustainable Development Goal, try and steer away from everybody's research interests and pick a new area, and then innovate together. And we very much put you in interdisciplinary teams, in terms of research focus and in terms of career stage where possible. I think I explained the delivery format before, but each module sort of 4 to 5 weeks, mostly online with class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then I think we've covered some of this around how researchers might employ entrepreneurial skills, but a reminder then that, it might be suitable for people on a range of pathways, really. And no matter kind of what way you want to take your research or your research goals forward, there's almost a similarity, in fact, between becoming a qualified researcher and becoming a kind of somebody skilled in entrepreneurial skills, I think, because I think, as Brianne mentioned earlier, it's almost about being somebody who's able to go through the process and work with others and their communication skills. It's almost more about the skills that you develop during the process than the final output. Investors will go for the team over maybe the idea sometimes. And that's really, it helps you not only develop the skills, but also be able to kind of articulate them and show them And here's the program learning outcomes. So potential for the development of new ideas latent in your research in a multidisciplinary environment. Learn more about entrepreneurship, creative thinking, and recognizing, developing, and assessing opportunities, and then apply the key insights from the course to your research. And I think I've mentioned most of these before. I have a real weakness for the PhD comics, but it's all but true, is that sometimes we can get trapped in these kind of cycles of thinking where you're very focused on a narrow element of your research, and creativity, innovation, design thinking, entrepreneurial characteristics. All of these things are useful in the kind of the day-to-day as well as your bigger goals. And of course, it doesn't hurt in today's world where a lot of the government funding is heading towards innovation. It doesn't hurt to have a qualification on your CV around innovation and entrepreneurship. So as I mentioned, it's a blended approach, and we do have an attendance requirement. And then we'd have a weekly office hour with me during the module. So as Uni mentioned, I think if you are experiencing any difficulties, or if you just want to pop in online for a chat, always happy to kind of keep in touch with everybody during the course of the module. So this is the kind of the technical part. So if you have questions, do pop them into the chat. So you have your personal statement, 500 words, your CV, please, 2 academic references, and that's the reference letters, not the names of referees, ideally. And you're more than welcome to get in touch with us to say that you're starting an application and here's half your documents, and you're still waiting on a reference letter, or we're very happy to move forward and start looking at the some of your application and help you with the rest. As I mentioned, there are some extra elements for Trinity PhD students, just to make sure everybody's happy with you joining the program. And that is the straightforward application process. Now, where this sometimes gets a little bit confusing is the difference between the application process and the funding process. So if you are a current registered research student at Trinity, and that includes things like Masters by Research as well as PhD, then we're very happy to offer you a free place on the program. We have a limited number of free places. So if you join and you are eligible for a HCI funded place, we might also ask you to evidence that, and that ensures our number of free places for those who might not be eligible. Same applies with Trinity research staff. We have a limited number of free places available, and if you join, it would be subject to the HCI eligibility criteria. So I'll go on to the next slide to explain that in a little bit more detail. So basically, if you're a current registered research student, if you join in enough time with a complete application, etc., very happy to offer you a free place. And if you're eligible, we may have a place for you as a Trinity researcher, but we do need to talk to you about the eligibility documentation under HCI. So generally that's about evidencing residency in Ireland or the EU, EEA, Switzerland or UK in 3 of the 5 years preceding the start of the programme. And there's a whole range of documentation that we can gather to prove that. We'd also need to see something along the lines of, a passport showing nationality or a right to work, live, study in the EU. So those are our 2 funded routes. If you are a non-Trinity applicant and you're eligible for HCI sponsorship, then you may be part funded. And if you are not eligible for HCI sponsorship, then the fee depends on as to whether you are EU or non-EU. Okay, and you cannot be sponsored or funded on multiple HEA funded programs at the same time. Despite Uni's daring jump from program to program, if you haven't finished anything along that's been funded by Springboard or has been funded by another fund under the HEA, then I'm afraid the funding is not possible. So if you have any questions about that kind of aspect of EU domicile or anything like that, just let me know. I'm having a quick look at the questions here. and I'm conscious of time, so I'll wrap up in a moment. How long will this program last? It runs from the 23rd of January to the 23rd of June 2023, and there is a week break between each module. And if you drop us an email, we can share you a provisional timetable. If my contract in Trinity ended before June 2023 and I'm still eligible to start the program, so I would say get in touch with us to chat about that one in more detail. There's a lot of different things that could be, because obviously we do have an attendance requirement. So we'd need to talk to you about the specifics of that. I wouldn't like to say yes straight away, just in case. So unless anybody has any other urgent questions. Okay, so you see here, you can visit our website. We're on tcd.ie/tangent, or if you email PG for postgrad PG tangent courses at tcd.ie, I'm more than happy to book in a chat with people to talk in more detail, or chat through the program or why it might be right for you. Okay, so that was a little bit of a whirlwind, so do get in touch if you have questions, and I encourage everybody to apply. But I just wanted to wrap up by saying thanks a million to Connor, Brianne, Claire and Unni for your time, and for your fantastic ongoing support for the programme, not just in terms of this alumni discussion, but I see you on social media and everything on helping us promote. So it was lovely to catch up with you all. And hopefully we might see you at graduation or similar.
Yay, definitely will.
Thanks
Again for everything.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, everybody who attended. The recording will be available afterwards and we'll add it to the Tangent website. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Recording stopped.